March 1st, welcome back to Edgework. I'm Zack Phillips, and today, to close out the week and to kick off the month of March, I'm joined here by So Money Sports to break down the 3 NHL games on the schedule tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the trade deadline as we are about a week away here now. We will also get into some Canucks discussion, some Leafs discussion, but that'll be at the end of the show. And if you guys have questions in the chat there, please make sure to send them in, whether it's about futures, if it's about attacking markets right now, if it's about player awards, whatever it is that you're looking at, make sure to send them in there. We will try to answer them throughout the course of the show here today. But before we can get into any of that, I want to remind people that today's show, as always, is sponsored by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is by using multiple sports books and always getting the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp to help you do so. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book, whether it's for games, futures, or player props, so that you can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Make sure to download the app today. It is available on iOS, Android, as well as on the web. And if you are looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/edgework. That's betstamp.app/edgework. Signing up through this link, which is available in the description, whether you're on YouTube or podcast platform, it does help support the show. So Money, if you saw what we did yesterday, we had a large amount of bets placed. We had a massive card, 11 bets total across I believe there's 12 games yesterday. We ended up going 5-5-1, a slight loss on the day, about a quarter unit that we lose yesterday. So that takes us to 271, 271, and 6 on the year. That's 549 bets that we were at there, 5.2% ROI on the season, and still up 29 units as of right now, which can all be seen in the BetStamp app. One winning day so far this week, So Money, and it came from a day that you were on. How are you feeling about that?
It's not surprising. I'm just joking. Yeah, I mean, it's a rough stretch, and February's a tough month. Usually is a tough month for me personally as well. A lot of the markets that we bet into in February seem to get more and more efficient, and it's getting more efficient earlier in the season now too. So February's tough. We just gotta as long as the process is right, there's nothing really to worry about. Just gotta keep going.
Right. Well, and we are seeing obviously more efficient lines, whether sides or totals that we're looking at, player props there as well. But you continue to come back to the show. We can break things down for you and explain why we are on sides, why we're avoiding sides, whatever it is. And hopefully we're not just giving you the fish, but we're actually teaching you how to fish here as well. And you can take away some insights that you can apply to your own betting as well. And if you do enjoy the content, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. And as we said, if you have questions, fire them away in the chat so that we can continue to answer those to maybe help some people out here as well. But So Money, 3 games on the schedule here tonight. Let's get into each of those, and then we can get into some more generic topics looking around the league. And let's start first and foremost in Washington, where the Capitals here tonight are hosting the Flyers. We see the Caps right now plus 102, the Flyers favored here minus 113, and a total of 6. What are your thoughts on where we're seeing this Flyers team getting this price as a favorite here on the road in Washington, and where we're seeing with this slightly lower total than what we get on a normal night here for some of these 6.5s?
Yeah, so and I mean, usually I would say that that there's value on the Flyers here, but Washington is the kind of team that I'm not going to say that they're growing on me, but I'm seeing a lot of stuff with them, especially with their play recently, where they may not be as bad as I thought they were, right? I they're playing well enough where they could get results, especially against really weaker teams. So I don't classify Washington as a bottom tier team anymore. I classify them as maybe a notch below a team like Philadelphia with the way that they're playing right now. And if that is the case, then the Flyers being a favorite like this on the road, that does make sense, right? So, and of course, we know how I feel about the Flyers in general.
Yep.
Even though we bet against them against Tampa Bay, I just feel like in like a larger scale, the Flyers are a kind of team that they're not going to go anywhere. You know what you're going to get out of them every night. So that being said, Washington, besides that 8-3 loss against the Wings, where they got very very poor goaltending. I didn't score that game as a game that has 11 goals in it, right? And also before that game as well, Washington was they were starting to play some very low event hockey. Flyers, the Flyers always want to play this way, right? And
Mhm.
even with like the 6-2 final there, that was another game where I didn't score that game 6-2. That was a game that um, a couple a couple of stretches where the goals came in bunches, and you don't want to throw it away, but you also want to keep in mind that if you were to take away those games, where would these teams be? And in this case, I think that um, at a flat six right now. There's value on that on that under six. So that's the way that we played it. So six up to -110, which should be available. That's where we are right now.
Okay, there is a bunch of -110s out there available. So that's you're saying this is the stopping point for you though at
Yeah.
-110 there because we see that's pretty much the best price that you can get -110. Obviously, it starts to peak out there. Past you can see some -114s, -120s out on the screen, but -110 widely available. So we'll grab that under six here between Washington and Philly here as the first play of the day. And a reminder for the people watching right now, listening, we will recap all the picks at the very, very end of the show. So Money, I'm kind of curious here. What is your adjustment? What is it they we're looking at here when you're making adjustments on some of these teams as the season goes on, and how drastic are they kind of relative to what you have at the beginning of the year? These are two teams here that we just talked about that for you and where you came in on them at the beginning of the season, even if it's not necessarily just in the model, but even how you're feeling mentally about these teams is much different from where it ended up to start the season, where it ended up 20 games in, and then where we're at now, which is approximately, 55 to 60 games for some of these teams. How do you kind of handle the adjustments, the ebbs and the flows of the year for these teams, and what is it that you're looking for to be able to continue to make sure that you're staying on top of a team the best that you can?
So it's very gradual, right? There's no I never overreact to one particular game or certain situations. But you look at a team like Washington, right, where I came in very low on them to start the season. I'm not saying they're a playoff team right now, but I had them as like a bottom five team in this league, right? And I don't have them as a bottom five team anymore, right? So if you look at their progression throughout the year, it's been very gradual. Like they've been ticking up little bit at a time every few games, where we get to a point now where I look at them and they're nowhere near the bottom five team that I thought they would be. With the Flyers, I thought that they would hover around a playoff spot. I thought that there was potential for them to surprise, but the way that they started the season, they've they they were playing well above my expectations. And with a team like Flyers, then you got to kind of look into them deeper and say that is this something that's going to regress, or is there something fundamental here, right? And with the Flyers, there was something fundamental, right? You could see what was coming out of their room. They were healthier than they were last year. There was I don't want to say more of a buy-in with Tortorella, but but there was a significant buy-in with him, right? And you can see that being translated onto the ice, right? So the shift on the Flyers, and there's also milestone games as well, right? Like the game against Tampa Bay the other night. That was another milestone game for me with the Flyers that they if they were who I was thinking they were, they probably don't win that game, right? But because they win that game and the way that they played, that's a situation where I'm willing to make more of an adjustment on them. And then you get to a point where throughout the season where um, you are with these teams where they are now, right? And like you can't. I've always said that like you can't get married to your thoughts from your previous thoughts, because that's when
Yep.
the biases come in, right? Like you need to be able to not overreact, but if you're making small adjustments over time, you're going to get to a point where you're okay with being completely wrong about a team, that in terms of where you had them earlier in the season, right? Like going into the season, I thought that Florida would be a bust, right? And like that's I was way wrong, and I'm okay with that, right? So you make those adjustments gradually throughout the season until you're able to see where the teams are, and it's okay if you're wrong.
That's kind of like how the chat handled Alber. At first, they were like, "This guy's an idiot." Now it's progressed to, "Okay, he knows what he's talking about. He's just struggling to pick winners right now." So it progresses. So money, it
Yeah,
progresses. You got to take it slowly. You got to take it slowly. You can't just jump out and make assumptions at the beginning and be sticking to those. Uh, but yeah, that's fair. Hopefully, people are able to take away from some of
and
this and
then,
understand how to make adjustments themselves.
yeah, and then you can't make things worse with your biases either, right? Like
Yeah,
you just gotta let it go, and you gotta move on. Like if you're wrong, you're wrong, and like
yeah.
just try to make it right.
Yeah, there you go. Fade Alber, buy a boat, repeat.
Simple.
But
We're gonna do that.
what is the saying? So money. What are the two best days of your life? The day you buy a boat and the day you sell it.
Yeah.
I think that's there you go. So we'll continue to move on here. We got two games. We got two games left on the schedule for tonight. One play locked in here so far. We'll continue to recap to break those down. We'll recap them at the very end of the show here as well. And as Evan says, already locked in Alber comeback player of the year futures. Maybe that's what we got to do for the show next year. So money, player. We got to do our own awards market
I like that.
for the people on the show from a daily basis. All right,
And let the
let's get
viewers
in.
vote.
Yes, that's the good way to do it. Have viewer submissions, viewer nominations, and voting. I like that actually. Maybe we'll do
We should
that
do
for
it this
next
year.
year. We could. You know what? Maybe we should do it this year. We
Yeah.
do the awards. We announce the markets, and then we give out what the winners for the markets. And then next year we can like put them up, set odds on them. We're
Yeah.
not taking bets on these, but people can make their own picks ahead of the season, and then we come back to it at the very end of the year. I like what
And
you're
yeah,
thinking there, somebody.
we can see how like the viewers are respond to like the markets, and who they pick, and then we'll be able to handicap that, and then like have like a better, like a well researched odds that we can put up.
You know what? I like this. I like that. All right. Well, you know what? A little bit of work for Moretto and myself, but we'll get it done. So money. I like it. All right.
Let's
Two
do
more
it.
games here. Let's get to the Sens Coyotes game where the Senators are hosting Arizona here tonight. Sens minus 185. The Coyotes plus 166. Obviously, coming off a game there last night, but a total of 6.5 here. What are your thoughts on where this one is priced at currently right now? Is this a deserving line for the Senators here tonight, especially given that the Coyotes are on the second night of a back-to-back? And do you have any bets in this game?
Is it ever a deserving line for the Senators? Right, like no, it's not. It's not deserving. Like the way that the Senators are playing right now, um, they they shouldn't be favored like this, right? But again, you're playing Arizona, who is struggling, right? One thing I will say is that I'm having a tough time with that total. You see it juiced on the 6.5. Arizona, for the most part, they're not playing wide open hockey, where they would warrant this with this juiced 6.5 total. Ottawa, on the other hand, before their last game, where that lost to Nashville, and I guess you could even say that loss against Washington, where things were kind of leaky. Ottawa has kind of tightened up their game as well. So even though I don't think that these teams warrant a juice 6.5 on the over. I have trouble with where Ottawa is right now. I want to see a little bit more out of them. That if the way that they've played the last couple of games is the way that we're moving forward with them, or if those two games were a product of the game scripts and how that and how both those games started, where Ottawa got down early. right? So because of that, I'll pass. But I think that 6.5 is too high on this game,
Okay.
especially because it's juiced.
And I'm gonna just ask, might be a dumb question here, but you're assuming that there's not going to be much more money come in on that over there. This is probably around where it stays.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't unless if yeah, there shouldn't be any news that's going to affect that total there. But yeah,
Right.
I don't anticipate anything coming in.
All right. There you go. So nothing for us in that game. Um, and we'll continue move on here. Final game of the night: the Anaheim Ducks hosting the New Jersey Devils. Anaheim plus 225, the Devils minus 250, and a total of 6.5 in this one. And this 6.5 is painted right across the market here right now. If you pull up the BetStamp app, at least minus 120s we're seeing for the most part. There is a little bit on either side, minus 118s in some books, minus 122s. Some pushing out to that minus 130 range, looking like it might start to head out towards that 7. So, Money, what are your thoughts on the price in this one? Maybe take a flyer, or are we looking maybe towards a total? Is there anything that might be piquing your interest here tonight?
Yeah, so I did bet the over here at minus 116. Um, there's a 118 there. Yeah, so 6.5 up to minus 120 is good. Um, both these teams are they they profile as significant over teams. I know that Anaheim is on a back to back, but at this point in the season, we know who both these teams are. Both of them want to get after it. No, neither team is gonna have a conflict of style with the other team that they want to hold the other team back or anything. Like both these teams are just gonna get after it. So I think that total should be headed towards the 7. Um, I'm surprised it's not there, but of course that's good for us. So I do like that. I do like that 6.5. I don't envision either team changing their style of play in a non-conference game at this point in the season.
So we'll grab a minus 118, and that is at a widely available book. So we'll track that one here. It is up available at minus 120 across a lot of different books as well that are widely available. Again, if you don't have access to one of those, or if you haven't signed up for one of those, betstamp.app/edgework, make sure to sign up there. You can help support the show by signing up through that link, and also get access to a bunch of other different sports books that do have those odds that we're looking for, up to minus 120 on the over 6.5. So that'll do it for best bets for tonight's games. Only 3 on the schedule. We do what we can here with these games. If they're available, we will lock them in. If there's plays that we have, we'll lock them in, but we're not going to force stuff for the sake of forcing it. So we'll also recap everything at the very end of the show here. But so, Money, as I said, I've got a couple questions for you, specifically what's going on in Vancouver, because the news out there, it started to kind of make its way out here into Toronto. It's becoming more conversational out here on Toronto talk radio, sports media, everything, bringing up what's going on with the Canucks. Yesterday, we're hearing rumors that there was talks of Carolina being involved, Neches, Kotkaniemi, players that were involved in these trades for Elias Pettersson. So I decided, you know what? It's time that I whip out the time machine again. I go into the future and see what I can find out for So Money ahead of Friday's show. I went ahead and I found out something for you, So Money. Next season, Elias Pettersson, the jersey he is wearing, it is a Vancouver Canucks jersey. Is this fact or fiction?
100% fact. He's he's not going anywhere. I think that it's like, so I'll choose my words carefully here because I'm all like I'm professional and stuff like that, right? But I think that um, we need to be this market, especially like the Canucks market. I understand that it's a market that's been hurting for a winner, right? Like
Mhm.
we're all desperate, we're all like whatever, right? But we need to settle down. I mean, like he's an RFA. We're in the middle of a season um where the team is like it's a first place team, right? It's going to be a big long term contract, right? That's probably going to um, it's probably going to be his biggest contract of his career, right?
Yeah.
And you're not just going to trade him, right? Just for the sake of trading him. This is a team that's close, right? Just let the process play out, right? Like he doesn't have to sign a contract right now, right? In fact, it would have been better if they just took care of it in like the summertime, right? Like the discussion should be in house, right? Whether or not he wants to stay, or like if he's planning to like um I don't even know what he can do. He's an RFA, right? So like if he's planning to not sign a long term deal, right? That can be an internal discussion between him and the team. And
Yeah.
other than that, like just let the team play, let the kid play, right? And like he said himself, right? Like like Talkett alluded to it the other day, where Pedersen came up to him and like he asked him about like handling distractions, right? So obviously it plays on his psyche, right? And you have the fans here, and like I know it's gonna come back to me. Well, they make millions, they should be able to handle it, blah blah blah. Yeah, but they have a lot at stake, and they've sacrificed their whole life to get to a certain point here. It's not like
Yeah.
you and me going out and playing hockey and like us being paid millions right now and being told that whatever comes at us we should be able to handle, right? Like there's there's obviously a lot more at stake for these guys, and at the end of the day these guys are people as well, right? Like they do hear stuff,
Mhm.
especially in a city like Vancouver, right, where it's been known to be a fishbowl, right? So I think that he is going to be a Canuck. He is going to sign a long-term deal. Hopefully it doesn't impact him too much on the ice, right? Hopefully it doesn't it it doesn't seep into other players, or like impending free agents, or like where they see how his situation has been handled. And everybody else, like just take it easy. Like he's gonna be a Canuck, right? Like he's an RFA. It's really hard for RFAs to just flip like that.
I think he stays a Canuck as well. For you, because I like you, I hope he stays a Canuck. But I'm gonna say one
Thank
mean
you.
thing. Okay, I'm
Sure.
gonna say one mean thing.
Okay.
I hope that this summer, until the contract is signed, you have to deal with that circus like we dealt with for each of our RFAs here. I need every day. Pedersen's getting 14 million. There's offer sheets by every team in the NHL. I need that from the media standpoint, just so I could say, okay, thank you. It happened somewhere else. But then I hope he signs, and then I hope it's
Yeah.
all rainbows and sunshine and all that good stuff.
And then that's the other thing, like you brought up the money. That's the other thing that I hear as well, right? That like if he gets X amount right now, is he worth the money that Nathan McKinnon or Connor McDavid are making? Well, no, but
Yeah,
that's not the way the market works, right?
no.
Like Connor's and McKinnon's next contract will be significantly more, right? And like what you want to do is just like how we're trying to get ahead of the market with betting, you're
Hmm.
like the teams are trying to get ahead of the market with where they value players. So you want to be at a point where 3-4 years from now, the money that you've given him today is a bargain 3 or 4 years from now, and like that's where Connor McDavid's contract is a bargain right now, right? So I like you and I aren't the ones paying out the contract anyways, right? So like
Yeah.
let's just like relax a bit here too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. This is the fight I have with people all the time as well when it comes to like the money or the contracts that you're signing, especially when you start to get into these deals with term. Like, okay, 2 to 3. If we're gonna go here and we're gonna go toe to toe on what a contract is and what it's worth and how it's affecting the cap, a 2 to 3 year deal at a higher AAV is obviously going to be a much different mental process to break down because it's like a short punch to the face in terms of like, okay, yeah, for 2 years, you're not like, oh, the cap's gonna go up, but like I mean, I'll bring it back to like Toronto here a little bit, but like that Nylander contract when he signs at that at the 11.5, the immediate thought is, wow, that's too much. And it's like, you know what? Like maybe next year it's too much, but then if the cap goes up, like Gary's projecting the cap to go up, then 2 years, 3 years, 6 years, we're looking at this one and kind of laughing and being like, wow, what a based on let's say player projection stays the same of what we think he could be, you're laughing. You're thinking, hey, we got away with
Absolutely.
one here because of what we signed him for.
Yeah, and like obviously like Inside has brought up Tavares' contract, right? Like most of these contracts, no, they don't age well, right? In 5 years, JT Miller's contract is going to be an albatross on the Canucks, right? Who cares right now, right? They're a first
Hmm.
place team. They're trying to win a cup, right? So like,
Yeah.
I don't care what happens 5 years from now. They can be a bottom, like a bottom feeder with like terrible contracts. If I've gotten a ring, I don't care what happens 5 years from now, right? So like,
Yeah.
and like that's the way that I look at these things as well.
Yeah. And the other thing too, to like Insight's point, and I'm not going to play victim on this one. They signed the contract. It is what it is. You do,
Yeah,
you deal with it with what you deal with. But I think every single person in the world remembers that like little pandemic that happened for a couple of years that chopped away at the growth of the salary cap.
yeah,
It's not just the Leafs who dealt with that. Like it was every team in the NHL. But when you're going to look around at some of those contracts and say, "Oh, it didn't age well," let's remember that in theory, based on where things were projected to go again by the NHL, we were supposed to be even a
yeah.
couple $1 million of cap room ahead of where we are today. Uh, Stuff like that, it's fairly unpredictable. I mean,
You
it
can,
could
yeah.
happen, like it can happen, but it plays a factor. Just interesting there. But I mean, yeah, I think that Patterson stuff is interesting. It's To me, it's a lot of just noise. It's just people talking shit for the sake of talking shit, trying to get some clicks or whatever it is that they're doing. Um, and the other thing as well is, and I'm sure we've seen it throughout your whole lives of watching hockey, but guess what the agent's going to be doing? Oh, this team's got some interest here. This team might throw an offer sheet. This team might try to trade for the guy, and then Vancouver might be sitting there being like, well, we gotta get to it now. We gotta get this contract done.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily we're gonna throw them all the money in the world, but maybe it pushes a little bit of sense of urgency on them of, hey, we got to get it done sooner. It happens with every single team and every single free agent that's actually worth anything, by the way. Like, guys, like, if the player is worthwhile to keep to your team, there's going to be some push there where it's that concern. Could the guy leave if other teams want him, or could other teams want him? Like, that's just the natural progression of what happens and driving up prices for players. I think it's just noise. I think it's just noise right now, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that, where they were at. Final thing I want to ask you here about the Canucks. Is it panic time at all, just in terms of level of play? I know we've talked about the adversity and stuff. I think it's fine because of the way that they're playing. I don't think is poor, or like I don't think they're getting like their teeth kicked in or anything but like that. But based on record that we've seen over the last little while, if you were to just look away and look on paper, see what's happened there, does it feel like people in Vancouver are starting to worry at all? Is it time to worry at all? What are your thoughts on where this team is at so far over the last stretch?
So there's a couple layers to that question, right? So like if people in Vancouver are always worried about everything with the
Well, yeah.
Canucks, right? If this was happening 3 weeks from now, like exactly how we're seeing it right now, I would be worried. I'm not worried right now. Couple of things. So last night's game, you had one team, the Kings, who came into the game playing playoff hockey, and they played that game as if it was a playoff game. And you had another team in the Canucks that had no idea what to do. They weren't on the same ice, right? Even with the score being 2-1 in the third period, um, I was hopeful that maybe the Canucks will find a way here, which obviously would have been really cool to see. But they weren't in that game, and they had no idea what to do against a team that had ratcheted up their intensity towards playoff hockey. Right, so that's the first
Mhm.
thing. Normally, that would be a concern, but I'm glad that it happened. Right, and I hope that going forward here in the next couple of weeks, that the Canucks are that the Canucks find themselves in more and more of these playoff games, because I do want to see how they respond, and and it's and it's good that it's happening before the trade deadline as well, right? Where clearly, like I mentioned this last week, right? There's clear deficiencies with this team, and 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 we can see it, right? So and it's better to have that addressed before the trade deadline rather than these issues coming up when you can't really do anything about it. Um, the shooting percentage is coming down, which I know will make Moretto happy. Um,
Yeah.
Shooting percentage is coming down. Also, the team is going through a couple of injuries that on paper don't look like much with Dakota Joshua, but the way that he was playing on that third line, it was really propelling the rest of the lineup, right? And that's a big injury, as well as Carson Soucy as well, right? So Noah Juleson stepping in, he's been good, right? But again, there's not that same kind of depth there, right? So the other concern that I do have, if we're talking about concern, so like none nothing happening right now worries me right now. As long as the Canucks are first in their division, they have a double digit lead. I'm good with that. So like I'm not worried about anything. These are all things um that they need to get more reps playing these kind of games. And I'm glad that it's happening now. So like if this is happening 3 weeks from now, I'll be concerned. Right now, I'm not concerned. One thing I am concerned about is a Demko, not his play, but I worry that we're playing him too much, right? And I don't want him to be in a situation where all of a sudden we're at game 82 and he's played 63 games, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not okay, right? So I think that the Canucks need to make a conscious effort to get him into that sweet spot of like the 57, 56 number there. So I think him touching 60 is is a is a concern for me. So I hope that gets taken care of. Um, Inside mentioned Dallas and Edmonton. Yeah, they are a concern, right? The Canucks aren't better than Dallas and Edmonton right now. Like I think that like anybody watching hockey right now will tell you that Dallas and Edmonton are better teams than the Canucks right now, right? Um, but the final script hasn't been written yet, right? Like there's still the Canucks still um, have the ability to improve the clear deficiencies in their lineup. They have the ability to get more reps in these playoff games, and then as we know, playoffs come down to a lot of coin flips and a lot of short-term variance, right? So
Mhm.
yes, those teams are a concern, but at this moment, I just want to see how the Canucks are playing through it, and I want to see them address their deficiencies before I'm concerned about the Canucks themselves.
All right. Well, there you go. There's some Canucks talk. You get some bets for tonight. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button. Final thing we'll do before I recap the picks, I'll touch on the Labushkin trade because I feel like if I don't, then there will be some people who are part of our network who might accuse me of being a coward for not bringing it up. So I will touch on it briefly. Last night I was live when the trade went down. I was live first of all when Labushkin got pulled from the lineup and they said that he was going to potentially be traded, and it was immediately linked to Toronto. Couple thoughts on it from my perspective is uh, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that you just watched Giordano go down last night with a head injury, and I'm going to assume that he's going to be out for the rest of the year. So there's a veteran defenseman who's been around who's going to be out for potentially a long period of time if not if he's not coming back within this year. Then you're going to be looking at Liljegren, who's out right now. And the last time we heard kind of anything similar to what they're saying about his injury right now, Joseph Woll missed 3 months. And you've got Connor Timmins, who's out right now with mono, which leaves you with 5 left-handed defensemen. So you go out, you needed some type of depth. You needed somebody to come in here and kind of filter into the bottom of your defensive lineup. Ilya Lyubushkin is a guy who has been a part of this organization not too long ago. Sheldon Keefe has familiarity with him. The staff here has familiarity with him. He's a guy that you can bring back and at least has that comfort level. So it's not going to be like he's going to be jumping into a completely new space, which is a bonus. You get 75% retained on his contract. So he's coming in under a league minimum salary, which allows you to make more moves going forward. And in terms of what the draft picks were to trade him, that was my biggest hangup. A third and a six is what I kept looking at. A third and a six. And I got Moretto sending messages like, what a joke, a third. We knew that they weren't going to trade this year's first. We knew that they weren't going to trade prospects in Minton and Cowan, and I don't think that they should. My perspective on this team this year has been I don't think that they should go crazy at the trade deadline. It just doesn't feel like this is the year that the team does it. Um, the third round pick is next year's third round pick. The sixth round pick is I mean, yeah, you can hit on some guys for sure. I get that, but it's like, okay, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's that big of a deal. You didn't necessarily pay the third and the sixth for the idea of, or for Lyubushkin, you paid the third and the sixth, the combination for Lyubushkin and 75% retained. That's one thing people got to remember there. It's not just third and a sixth for Lyubushkin. Now, so Monty, the biggest holdup that I had at the end of the day yesterday was it's what I talked to you about a little bit before we started the show here today. It's a good depth ad. Sheldon Keefe scares the absolute shit out of me that he's going to use him as a top four piece.
Yeah.
If I have to watch Lyubushkin out there playing 20 minutes a night
Yeah.
alongside Morgan Riley, then I'm going to throw up all over myself and be like, what the hell were we doing? And then I'm going to turn around and agree with Moretto and say that this was insane. If he's going to use him as a depth piece, if he's going to use him as 6'7", perfect. I'm happy with this. I can walk away. I can walk away fine. I can accept this one at under a league min, and I'm fine with the trade. But that's kind of like my initial reaction on it. I don't think that this is like a one big swing one way or the other. I don't think it drastically changes things for the Leafs. It just addresses a need. You needed some depth defensemen, and specifically right-handed. And let's just add in the little tiny bonus that we have there of the guy being mean. Like he's a tough guy who throws hits. Nice to have around, I guess, right? I'd rather add a guy like that into this lineup with this Leafs team and the character that they're trying to build than go out and get some like offensive defenseman to go and join that back end. It's not something that blows me away. It's more just like back of my mind, I'm like, Sheldon Keefe is going to fucking play this guy in the top four, isn't he? And that scares the hell out of me. If he doesn't do that, I'm good. But otherwise, I think you still also have your picks for this season available to go out and trade. You can use that third round pick that you have that we've been sitting there looking at. You can use some other prospects who are lower down on the chart, who are below the tiers of Niemela, Cowan, Minton, to go out and acquire somebody else if that's what you're going to look to do going forward. But that's my thoughts on the Lyubushkin trade.
Yeah, and like you like look around the league, and right-handed defensemen are scarce in this league now, right? So like, you are gonna have to give up something, right? And like, if you have a need for a right-handed defenseman, which a lot of teams do, right? You are gonna get into these like bidding wars, and like as you were talking, I was just thinking like, what a terrible GM I would be, right? Like if like a lot of these GMs are trying to preserve their jobs for like long term, right? Like if I feel my team is close, right? Like everybody's getting paid, every draft pick is getting traded, right? Like I don't care what happens to me 3-4 years from now. If I'm close to a ring, I'm going for the ring, right? So that's what I mean.
Kind of sound like Kyle Dubas there.
Yeah, pretty much, right? like I mean, if you're close, you go for it, right? Like So yeah, it just made me think what a terrible GM I would be.
All right, that'll do it for today's show. I appreciate everyone who watched. Appreciate everyone who tuned in. If you did enjoy the show, please hit that like button, subscribe. I see a question from Brian there about 10 goalies and trade deadline and stuff coming up. Over the next week, we'll have plenty of content here on the channel. So we'll try to break some of this stuff down more in depth and maybe be a little bit more prepared leading up to this deadline about some things that we might be able to bring some insight to people on, whether it's, hey, watch out for this for betting because these guys might get pulled, or watch out for this team that you might want to jump ahead on in terms of grabbing futures because they might be looking to acquire guys. Like we'll be looking over the next week to try to bring you guys some of that information. As of right now, So Money and I are going to be more prepared to talk about the Canucks and the Leafs than we are necessarily of taking a grander picture of the whole league and whom teams might be trading for at this given moment. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. We'll be back throughout next week to break things down as we lead up to the deadline as well. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at EdgeworkHQ so that you get notified when our tweets come out with our full slate of picks for tomorrow's game. So check that out as well. As for tonight's games, the picks that we have in the three, we have two best bets for you. First, we've got the Flyers Capitals under 6 -110 there. And then second, we got the Devils Ducks over 6.5 -118. So two bets, Flyers Capitals under 6 -110. And second, Devils, Ducks, over 6.5, -118. Those are our two bets for tonight. Alex B. Smith will be back with So Money and myself on Monday. Hopefully he's feeling better then. So Money, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, sitting through 40 minutes, just you and I chatting away some hockey here for those
fun,
in the chat. Yeah, I had fun here as well. I enjoyed this Friday show. Close off the week, and on top of that, open or turn a new page and start off the month of March here on a positive note. We're going 2-0 here tonight. Start off the weekend right. Start off the month of March right. Let's get it done here tonight. Thanks to everyone who tuned into the show here today. We'll see you guys back here Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy the games this weekend. Good luck on your bets.